everybody, this is Jennifer. Welcome to my channel where I talk about books, music, movies, and anything else that takes my fancy. Today I'm doing a quick overview of my February and March reading. February was pretty, I don't know. February was pretty drab, but March made up for it in spades. So yeah, I'm really ready to talk about these. I know it's a bit late, but whatever. Alright. So I'm just gonna go through real quick what I read in February. I'm not gonna go into it too much. I started off with Letters to a Young Contrarian by Christopher Hitchens. That got 3 stars. I read most of it. I read like 80% of it closely, and then I skimmed through the last 80% because I'm kind of tired of it. But anyway, then I started Yes Please, and then I skimmed through pretty much the entirety of that because I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't find it all that interesting, and I didn't rate it because I really just skimmed it. Okay, so one of my reread for the month of February was The Value of X. See how I really need to buy a new copy, but whatever. The Value of X by Poppy Z. Brite. It's a prequel to the Liquor series, and it deals with the period in Ricky and G-Man's life when they're trying to when they're teenagers and they're trying to understand why suddenly they used to be best friends, but now they're kind of attracted to each other, and how they deal with that, and Ricky's time at the Culinary Institute of America. And I love this so much because it's the prequel to one of my favorite series, well, probably my favorite series of all time. And I love it. So yeah, that's got another 5 stars from me. So I read some stuff for the Romance Readers Readathon, which I didn't end up doing a wrap-up video for that. Sorry about that. Anyway, so I read Scored by Sloan Howell, who is a dude, and I think this might be the first romance book that I ever read that was by a dude who wasn't with some of these romance writers are actually husband and wife teams, and I do believe I've read a few of those, but I've never read one solely written by a dude. And yeah, it was Scored by Sloan Howell. It was 3 stars. It was pretty decent. And then I reread The Devil Earl by Deborah Simmons, which is a 5 star. It's one of my favorite romances of all time, and I really enjoyed that. I read 2 silhouette nocturnes or something by Deborah Herbert, and they took place in the bayou of not even Louisiana, it was Alabama. Anyway, whatever. It was Bayou Shadow Hunter and Bayou Shadow Protector. Bayou Shadow Hunter got 4 stars because I liked that one better. And then the second one was just basically the first one, except with a fairy. I don't know. Anyway, it was fine. So the next one, the last one I read was The Air He Breathes by Brittany Cherry, which was a new to me author, and I thought it was really good. I gave that 4 stars. I mean, it didn't blow me out of the water, blow it out of the water, but I thought it was really solid. So yeah, and then the last thing I read in February was The Rivers of London by Ben Aronovich. Has a comic book series out through Titan, and so I get these, and I like them a lot. So I read that, and that was the last thing I read in February. So, we had 1 5 star, but that was a reread, and then the rest were all DNFs, 3s, and 4s. Alright, so yeah, it was fine. But nothing compares right now to what March was. So I finished 12 Things. And, hold on, I forgot this one. I finished 12 Things, and okay, so I gave 1 2 stars, which I will rant about later. I gave 1 3 stars, and I gave 2, no, okay, so I gave 5 4 stars and 5 5 stars. Now, that adds up to 12, yes, but I think I didn't score, anyway, yeah, because I I did not score this one because I started it like a year ago, and so I just read the last like third. It's the first book for of Lucifer, which is Mike Carey's spinoff from Neil Gaiman's The Sandman series. It's just one character, and they made a TV show out of it, and I love the TV show, but the TV show and the comic book are pretty much nothing alike. You've got some character names that match up, but that's pretty much it, except that whole, well, you know, Satan leaves hell and then he starts a jazz bar or whatever in LA. That's pretty much all. Everything after that, it's just not the same. You guys didn't need to hear that. But anyway, let's just go through what I read in April in order. I don't have a copy of everything. Sorry about that. The first thing I did, I listened to the audiobook of It Devours by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Cranor. It's a Night Vale novel. I listened to the audiobook because the audiobook is read by Cecil Baldwin, who does the actual like narration for the podcast. So I don't know why you would want to read that with your eyes when you can listen to Cecil Baldwin read it to you. 4 stars. I really liked it, and it's got, you know, it's got a whole lot of fantasy elements, because Night Vale is this town where every conspiracy you've ever heard of is absolutely true, and it's out in the open, and it's basically an ignored secret or whatever. And yeah, but they use that to make some very salient points and some very good points about society and all that, and I really like it, and that was 4 stars. Next up was, oh look, I have actual copy of this covered. As soon as I get my Kindle open, give me just a second. There we go. I read Sailing Alone Across the World by Joshua Slocum. That was a very good, very solid 4 stars. There's nothing deep about it, but it had some very interesting stuff, like he runs afoul of some flat earthers who take very big exception to the fact that he's saying he's sailing alone around the world. They do not like that, because to sail alone around the world, you'd have to be on round Earth. Anyway, that's fun, and it got 4 stars. Next up was, sorry, I did it again. I read The Doll's House, which is the 2nd volume of the Sandman series. I have the 3rd one coming up. That's the thing I gave 3 stars. I love Neil Gaiman's writing, like his actual like prose writing and stuff. I'm not so sure I love Sandman very much, but I'm gonna give the 3rd one a shot because I already have it, and I'm just gonna try. But I may or may not go on with the 4th one. It just depends on how the 3rd one works out. Okay. So, okay, now we're up to my 2-star read. Okay. And that was Satan, His Psychotherapy and Cure by the Unfortunate Dr. Kassler, JSPS, by Jeremy Levin. Okay, so I don't know. I did a bit of a mini rant when I did my currently reading, and this was on there, but I'll just be honest. There were several times during my reading of this where I was like, you have got to be kidding. Some things just happen that are absolutely ludicrous. The whole story is populated by a bunch of jerks, and I did not like any of the characters, because the ones who weren't jerks were pathetic schlubs. And there was one, I think her name is Beverly, who's a genuinely nice person, and I liked Beverly. But she plays a very, very, very small role. The only parts I really enjoyed, well, the beginning, I liked the satire and the whole like sarcasm and the humor at the beginning. But in the end, it got really tiring, and the only parts I really enjoyed were the actual like psychotherapy between Satan and Dr. Kassler, and those were like interludes in between this major story of Dr. Kessler and all the horrible people he deals with and how poorly he deals with the horrible people, and I was over it. Anyway, so yeah, enough about that one. That was 2 stars. I couldn't give it 1 star because, like I said, I liked the parts with the actual psychotherapy and the back and forth, but yeah, I didn't like it. So next up was, so me and my sister went on a road trip one weekend last month, and on the way there and back, we listened to The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This has been getting a lot of BookTube love, and let me tell you something, it deserves it. That book was so good. This was one of my 5-star reads. It deals with this Hollywood actress who's about like 80, and she was in the grand like old Hollywood system, and it's her story of her 7 husbands and her one true love and just basically her life. And you know, the thing about Evelyn Hugo, which, you know, there's 2 main people, you know, there's the narrator who she gets to write her memoirs, and then there's her. And one of the criticisms I would say about this book is the narrator sort of just disappears. And I know the main story is supposed to be about Evelyn Hugo, which is fine, but I don't think the narrator gets quite as good as characterization as she should have. But I loved this story, and even a few weeks later, I still have Evelyn Hugo in my head. Sometimes I'll just find myself thinking about it. It's just really good. So anyway, yes, that gets my hearty seal of approval. Next up was a 4-star read, and it's also another BookTube darling. So it's The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Yes, I finally did it. I listened to it on audiobook, and I really enjoyed it. It's about these 6 students who are studying ancient Greek at this like private college in New Hampshire. It's either in New Hampshire or Vermont, I think. Anyway, and so they commit a murder, and it's about what led up to the murder and what happens after the murder. And so, yeah, I really liked a lot of this. The atmosphere, the pretension, the whole, like, you have these rich eccentric kids, and it's like, yeah, okay, that's awesome. However, the book is a little long, especially in the second half. Around 80% mark, I really started to get sick of these people. That being said, I liked the ending. It's just between like 80 and like 95%. I'm like, okay, when is this going to be over? Also, okay, Charles and Camilla, for crying out loud, did you have to name them that? Because every single time I heard the names together, Charles and Camilla, all I could get in my head was Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles, the Duchess of something or whatever she is now. And it kind of drove me nuts. And their characters, like I said, around 80%, I was like, ew. You know what I'm talking about. There's this part with them, and I'm like, ugh, gross. Anyway, so there's that. But other than that, I did think the ending was really good. I liked the ending, and I liked a good, like, 85%. So I gave this book 4 stars, and I think it earned it, and I'm probably going to reread it at some point. Yeah, so let's move on. After The Secret History, I don't have this one either, sorry. I read Obsidio by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, and they do, that's the 3rd and final book in the Illuminae Files trilogy. This I got 5 stars. I gave 5 stars. Unlike some people, I think most people prefer like if they were gonna go in order, they'd do like 1, 2, 3. I'm kind of a 1-3-2 person. Yeah, so I really liked the ending. Well, I really liked this last book. It's very actiony. It's very brutal. It does show like it just there's you know there's these corporate soldiers on this planet, and they're really mistreating the people who were on the planet before, and so that's very it's very brutal, and they get into some action that's like anyway, stressful. And so that was good. I thought it was really good, but the problem with my part, and you might want to, like, I don't know, if you're still planning on reading this, you might want to skim this part a little, maybe mute it until I show the next book. But the ending was too pat for all of the stress and for all of the stuff that goes on throughout the entire book. The ending was just a little bit too, and they all lived happily ever after. You know what I mean? Yeah, anyway. So yeah, we're moving on now. So next up I read, oh goodness, this is my reread for this month. It was The Hanging Tree by Ben Aaronovitch. I listened to the audiobook, which is read by Kona Holbrook-Smith, who is my favorite audiobook narrator, except Neil Gaiman reading his own writing. That's pretty much it. Yeah. So this is the 6th book, I think. Hold on, let's see. Rivers of London, that second one, Whispers Underground, Broken Homes. Yeah, this was the 6th full-length novel. And when I first read it, I read it here, and I gave it a 4-star. But I listened to it again with the audiobook, and then I gave it a 5-star. So I was a little bit disappointed the first time at who the faceless man turned out to be, but in the end, on the re-listen, I really enjoyed this, and I ended up giving it 5 stars over the 4 last time. Okay, so next up I read an audiobook. And I don't have a copy of this. It's Carsick by John Waters, which is where he hitchhikes in a car across America. He also does a little like short story portion at the beginning where he gives his like, this is how it would work out if it was the best ever. And then he does one, well, this is how it would work out if it was the worst hitchhiking trip ever. So there was that. And then he did how it actually turned out, which was fun. And he read the audiobook himself. I gave it 4 stars. What I would say is, if you are a fan of John Waters, you're gonna love it. If you are not a fan of John Waters, and if you're a prude, I hate using that word. It sounds like a slur, and it's not. If you're on the prudish side, and if you don't like out there stuff, then I would not recommend it at all. But I loved it because I'm a big John Waters fan. All right, so the next book I read was The Seventh Function of Language by Laurent Binet, translated from the French by Sam Taylor. This was long listed for the Man Booker International. That's not why I read it, but that's just a bit of trivia about it. So yeah, I listened to this on audiobook, and I thought it was really good. This is another one of my 5-star reads. I loved this book. It's hilarious, and it's got like, it's kind of it's historical. I hate calling this historical fiction, but it's set in the 80s around like the death of this French linguistics. He's either a professor of linguistics, semiotics, or like, yeah, anyway. he has this secret about, he discovered this secret, and he had something about the seventh function of language. Well, he's walking home after a lunch with Francois Mitterrand, the wannabe president of France, and he gets hit by a car, and he's very seriously injured, and this French detective gets assigned to the case to, one, kind of find out what's going on, and two, to make sure that seventh function of language where you can just make people do what you want, does not get out. Yeah, so he conscripts this, I think it would be considered a grad student now, because he's like teaching classes as like a TA on Roland Barthes, and he's, you know, studying for his own like major degree. And he gets conscripted to help this detective, and they go all over the place. They go to Ithaca, New York. They go to Bologna. They go to, you know, I forget all the places they go to, but there's like philosophers, there's linguists, there's gigolos, there's all kinds of good stuff happening. I really loved this book, and I'm probably going to re-listen to it at some point soon. It was so much fun, and I just thought it was really good. It didn't get shortlisted, which made me kind of sad, but whatever. You can't win them all. Anyhow, yeah, so that got 5 stars, and I'm really, thing ends on a zinger, like an actual, like a zinger, and I thought it was really fun. Anyway, it's not too serious, but it's mostly fun. It has to do with like spies and the French government and all kinds of stuff like that. I really like it. Anyway, so, I finally finished The Heart is a Lonely Hunter by Carson McCullers. This also got 5 stars for me. This is a lovely book. And it's about this small group of people. They're not like grouped together. Well, they're grouped around this one deaf mute by the name of John Singer, who loses his, whose best friend, his Greek friend who's also a deaf mute, gets taken to a facility because he's suffering from severe dementia. So he's left by himself. And he has this motley group of people who come and visit him and who, you know, try to talk with him. He reads lips a bit, but sometimes he doesn't really understand what they're saying. So it's about him, and it's about these people who, you know, use him as a sounding board for their frustrations about living in a small southern mill town. And I love this book so much. I read it really slowly, and I just got a lot out of it, and I liked it a lot, even though the ending kind of made me sad. But what you gonna do? Anyway, this was really well written. This is Carson McCullers' first novel. She wrote it when she was 23, and I just thought it was really good. All right, so the last thing I read, technically I started this in March, and technically I finished it on April 2nd, but I wanted to include it in this wrap-up. It was, and I don't have a copy of it, sorry. It was Last Night at the Viper Room, River Phoenix and the Hollywood He Left Behind by Gavin Edwards. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I was a bit young when all this happened, so I wasn't, and River Phoenix really wasn't on my radar, but I found this really interesting, his life growing up. When he was very young, his parents were a part of the Children of God cult, which you might have heard about. They were very bad about sexualizing children, and anyway, I'm not gonna go into it too much, but I thought it was a very interesting look, 1, at his life, and then 2, at the culture that was surrounding him in that time when I was like, I don't know, I think I was like between, it's really happened between I was in 10 and like 13. This is when this was happening. So yeah, I really liked it. My only quibble, I think, would be that he's the author does do some like, he goes in between like the Hollywood part and then the River Phoenix part, and in the end it didn't work entirely for me, but I really did enjoy it and I ended up giving it 4 stars. So yeah, that is what I read in February and March, and this is very long, so I apologize, but what can you do? Anyway, so thank you guys so much for watching. If you have comments about anything I read, or you want to make comments about what you read, anything at all like that, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. Also, feel free to like, share, and subscribe if you want. I do usually make videos pretty regularly, hopefully. I don't have Wi-Fi, so it's hard sometimes, but please feel free to like, share, and subscribe so you can get notifications on when I do post videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.